All right, what's up and what's going on, y'all? This is something that happens down here in Texas, right? We got Texas card rooms. Everybody know about Texas poker? For the most part, you got some that are so large that it won't happen, right? They're always full, so it never happens. But you have some that are still, you know, getting people to know they exist. And when this happens, it takes a while for the room to just fill up and you have players all over the place in the morning, right? In the evening time, I think it's a lot different. We're starting to see a little growth as far as players down here in our area that are playing in the evening time where they're having 3 to 4 tables. We haven't seen that for a long period of time, right? So it doesn't happen on a regular. But when you go up by San Antonio, Austin, Round Rock, places like that, the Lodge, the one at the Lodge bought used to be Rounders, SA Card House, places like that. These type of poker rooms stay open 24/7, and they pretty much keep the rooms filled daily, right? If there is anything loose in the midnight hour after 3 o'clock, I've seen where it's probably down to 2 tables. I've gotten up where I stayed up there at the hotel, and before I left to get back on the road, I figured I'd let the traffic die down. I'm gonna go around to the poker house and play a couple of hours before, let the traffic die down. Then I'm heading back to the house. And I've gone in there and I've seen 2 tables going, right? In between 3 and 4 before I get up on the road myself. So those type of rooms stay established. So you don't have the house having to play at the table to keep the game going. But down here, every now and then, we may have to, right? Because sometimes they may not get tables really going until after 6 o'clock, right? Where players really start coming in and they start getting more tables, like 1 or 2 tables, 3 tables or something like that at the most. They have a large room. They got a lot of tables, man, but it's still, the atmosphere just isn't set yet where they just get their energy of and a good flow of customers coming in to play poker. It just doesn't happen like that. So every now and then, what happens? The floor has to sit at the table in order to keep the game going, right? Because me, myself, I don't like playing with no lower than 6. I hate 10. I like 9 because that's what they seat, right? But when they ask, do you want to play with 5? I pretty much say, no, I'll wait until we get one more person. Right? Now, if the floor is going to be that fill-in, then that's what they're going to do. So they may sit in because they know a lot of us want to play with 6, and they'll sit down and they'll be the 6th person to sit at the table. And it happens during the day, and sometimes it happens in the evening time. It happens. But some people get upset for some reason. Why? I don't know. If the floor is playing, and I think it could be just because a person is good and they don't recognize that the player is just a good player, right? And if they're the floor and they sit down, they're not going to be a fill-in because the house isn't giving them chips. They don't get fill-in chips. They don't get chips where they just sit down and they just fold, right? They're not going to do that. They're going to play. And a lot of times it goes their way. I've seen it where they win and I've seen it where they lose. But I've seen it where they win and people raise an eyebrow and they can't stand it. They don't like the situation. They don't expect the fill-in, the manager of the floor, to say all in, right? When you bet, they expect for that person just to call. And that doesn't happen like that. You got to realize that is that person's money. And if he sits down with it, he's not trying to give it up to you. Right? If you got the best hand and you're going to bet, you better be betting because you got the best hand, right? A lot of us don't check, and you have to learn how to do that. If you don't have the best hand, if you know you don't have it on lock, then why are you still betting? Why are you still betting? It should be a check, but a lot of us, including myself, we don't do that. We get caught up in the moment and we just bet. It's natural, right? But what I'm saying is a person gets upset when that person goes over the top. Like they wasn't expecting that person to do that. They don't want to see that. They'd rather see him just call. And you have to be grown and mature about it. Just understand that's that man's money. Why is he going to give it up? Why is he going to call you if he has the best hand? If anything, you should be the one that fold once he says all in. And we had it happen twice yesterday. He did it to one of the guys, and the guy said, cash me out, right? Like he was expecting not to have that happen. He just wanted the chips. He felt that if he bet it, then the floor would either go away or the floor is going to call him. No, the floor said all in. He had a hand. And that's why he said all in. It was going to crush him anyway. Even if he called, he's still going to win. But that's what that player wanted that person to do. Just say call. It doesn't happen. That's poker. You have to be mature about it, right? Second time, as soon as the person sat down, first hand, to me, I say he shouldn't have been in because I wouldn't play with that hand. But some players play with hands and you just scratch your head. Even if they win, you still scratch their head because you know if they keep on playing like that with those type of hands, it's going to backfire. It's going to bite you in the butt and you're going to be on a losing end, which is what happened. As soon as he sat down, he got dealt ace-7. Floor got dealt ace-jack. Flop comes out, ace-jack-7. So both of them hit 2 pair. The customer first to act, so he betted. Floor said all in, right? Had him covered. Customer said call, thinking his 2 pair was going to be good. This is on the flop. Ace-jack-7. So he said call. He's figuring that maybe the other guy has an ace, but he's not putting him on an ace-jack. He's just putting him on me. Okay, he has an ace, but I got 2 pairs, so I got him, right? So he said I call. They turned over their hand, ace-jack over ace-7. Wiped him out, sent him to the ATM. Now, he didn't get upset. He just went to the ATM, said, nice hand, went to the ATM. He did not look at the floor manager as a person that's just there as a filler. And that is what you have to remember. They may be there to keep the game going, but when they sit down, their chips are playable. And if they want to play, that is what they're going to do. No matter how you look at the definition of what you're there or why they're there, that's their money. And you got to understand that it's theirs. So they're not going to allow you to take their money, right? They got family. They got things they want, right? So they want to win. So they're there to play. But as soon as somebody else comes in, then, that is when it can get kind of funny because now that person took your money and let's just say 3 people walk in. If 3 people walk in, guess what? That filler is going to get up. He's not sitting at the table. He's going to get up and he's going to say, oh, okay, I got you. You can sit here. I'm about to get up. He's not giving them chips back to anybody. So that's why you have to be cautious and you have to recognize and realize it. When that person is sitting at the table with you, he's only there temporary. So it's a flip-flop. It is a coin that you can flip and say, hey, if you're filling in, then we don't want you taking money because we know you're not going to be sitting down for long, especially if somebody walks through that door, right? Now, if you're going to play, then play. See, this is why you have to understand the psyche of that other person because that other person is already sensing. If this guy wins 4 hands and he gets paid and then all of a sudden 3 to 4 people walk in and he gets up, he just took our money. That's how they're going to see it. And hey, they're right for feeling that way. But at the same token, I'm like this. I like I say, man, when a filler sits down at the table with me, I've already got it in my mind, especially if we're playing in the time of day when I know another person can walk through that door at any time. Now, if a filler sits at a table at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get another person to walk through that poker door at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning to come in to play poker. If they wasn't there earlier, 9 times out of 10, they're not coming. Nobody else is coming in. So when that filler sits down, 9 times out of 10, that filler is going to be there for the rest of the hours because you only won't probably shut it. You'll probably shut it down by 5 or 6 in the morning, sometimes 7. Sometimes it goes even further where I've seen it on the guide that we follow and we want to know what the table setting is. Sometimes at 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I've hit it and it said there's a table going. And when I say, oh, they got a table going already, I'm out. I'm leaving earlier. And then I get up there and the filler is still sitting there because nobody's there, right? So his money is going to be on the table. But you have to me, I just say it as, if a filler sits in the middle of the day, and we know we still got opportunity that somebody else is going to come to that wall, if I see him raise, I fold, unless I got a good hand, right? Because I'm telling you, man, when I be paying attention, I don't like losing my money, and I don't want to see my money walk off that table. So when a filler sits down, and if I see him raise, I fold. If I don't have aces or kings or anything like that, right, I fold. If they just call, then of course, we're going to get it on, we're going to play. But anything they raise, if I see them raise 5, if I see them raise 10, 15, or 20, 9 times out of 10, your boy going to fold, because I know somebody else walks through that door, and if he get that pot built up to $150 to $200 and 4 people walk through that door, 9 times out of 10, one of them guys going to sit in his seat. And when they do that, he's about to get up from the table. And he's not going to sit there, because that's what they're there for. They're fillers. So as players, you have to be wise in your decisions that you make. And if you don't have a surefire hand that's going to beat that filler out, then you better go ahead and just, either check it or make sure that it's a playable enough hand that you could take a chance at it. But if he says all in, he's not saying all in because he's trying to give away chips. He's saying all in because he's a good poker player and he has the best hand. I seen him do it twice yesterday. And I got up right after I seen it happen, and I said, okay, I'm going to cash out, because either he's hot and I don't want to run into that heat, right, because he's pulling off some hands. Ace Jack. Now, both of them played hands that, to me, I said it's on the fence. Anybody knows if you get an ace jack in your hand, only time that hand looks good to you is in a tournament. If you playing cash, an ace jack can screw you so fast, right? And you just miss everything. Ace 7, I wouldn't even thought about playing that. Offsuit, no way. I'm coming in with that hand. No, I'm not doing it. I'm going to fold it. Live to see another day. I don't care if it hits the board or not. I'm not going to say, if I'd have stayed in, I'd have won all that money. No, I'm getting out of there, and I'm not going to play with it. Because if I get a 7 with an ace kicker, so what? Somebody got a pair of 8s. Doesn't matter. Ace 7, I get an ace. So what? He got an ace with a queen. I got an ace with a 7. Kicker 7 not strong enough. So he found out the hard way that you don't play those type of hands. But it is what it is. So anyway, this one is just about recognizing, even at house games, when you have the house sit down because they may not have enough players or whatever, always remember, the house is always winning. I don't mean always winning like, they're always winning. But if they are playing certain games, you know what I mean, what's going on with that. So you don't want to do that, because, hey, they can break you. And a lot of them, they're not going to sit down and just play and then give away chips. That's not what they're trying to do. They're there to play. And you got to recognize that. So anyway, this is about, if you play in Texas, right, and you playing at houses, at card houses where you may not have that much going on at certain times, and then the filler has to sit down, meaning the manager, if he sits down to keep the game going, and if he's not the type of person that just folds, right, and then allows people to stay on the table so he doesn't break the game up, if they're there to play, then you better recognize that person as a player. And you don't want to get into it with them, especially during the midday. Because like I said, during the midday, players can come in at any time, and you do not want that filler to get $200 to $300 up, right, in winnings, because they may not have to sit down again until later on in the evening. And they may not have to sit down at all, because if that house fills up, hey, they made $300 plus salary, right? Whatever they're getting paid from the house, from the poker room itself, and they just made $300 on top, and they may not never have to sit down again. And then by the time their shift is over, it could be in the evening, and they can go home. They already won 3. They don't need to play anymore. So you always got to keep that in mind. That's the way I see it. So anyway, with that said, I'm out. This is about getting crushed by fillers. That's what I call them. I call them fillers, table fillers. So with that said, I'm out. Peace.